Morning, good morning, good morning. I'm going to always start right on time and then wait about 2 minutes and then start the class every day.
Uh,
All right, here we go. If everybody could put their screens on or your audio on mute, that would help. And we're going to get going here.
Or you can carry that. You can't pause class.
All right, so we're going to go over homework first. This was, I hope a couple people didn't realize it said class exercises, but it was 1 through 8. I chose not to do the written exercises. The diagram that they give you there, the start written exercises is way too complicated for where we're at. I mean, we just started this off. They should have gave us a nice, easy one. So I like the classroom exercises one. All right, so I'm going to call out the answers here. So it says, number 1, name. Oh, first off, any questions? Nope. Okay. So here are the answers. For number 1, it said name 2 pairs. So you needed to name both of them. So that would be angle 7 and angle 3, and angle 8 and angle 4. Those are the alternate interior angles. If you notice on this particular diagram, they labeled their angles differently than how I did in class. There's no rhyme or reason what needs to be angle 1 or 2. You're able to name those label those 8 angles any way they choose. All right, the corresponding angles are 5 and 3. This is question number 2. 5 and 3, 8 and 1, 6 and 4, and 7 and 2. And then we had, they gave you one of the angles. You had to figure out all the rest of them. So angle 3 is 138, or angle 3, I'm sorry. Number 3, angle 6, is 138. Number 4 is 42 degrees. Number 5 is 138 degrees. Number 6 is 42 degrees. Number 7 is 42 degrees. And number 8 was 138 degrees. And that was it. Make sure that you've attached your homework to the assignment. That's how I'll give you credit. The first 2 days, I'll give a bunch of grace. I know people are figuring everything out, but let's say by Thursday, if you don't turn your homework in when it's due, then it's going to be a 0. And especially, please make sure that it's legible. I know you guys haven't had a quiz or test yet. Quiz is tomorrow. We'll talk about it here at the end of class. But a couple people were in my 7th grade. They attached a very blurry picture of a test that I was supposed to grade. Hey, that's not where I want to be. I want to be at the start of class, not the end of class. All right, homework tonight. This is yesterday's class. Homework tonight will be 6.5b. It will be a worksheet. The worksheet is already attached to the assignment, 6.5b. If there's any issues or whatever, send me a chat or email. Just remember, I've got like 40 chats right now going on. I got to teach class, so I'm not going to be able to answer chats immediately. So and right now I've got, Carly sending me a message right now, and I'm not going to be able to answer that until I get some free time, which is until about 12 o'clock. And then obviously when we get to student advisement, I got plenty of time to answer our questions. So don't expect an immediate answer. All right, we're gonna take a quiz tomorrow. The quiz will be on online as well too. You won't see it until tomorrow. It'll pop up. It'll be a 10-minute quiz, and we'll talk about what will be on it at the end of this class. So here's what we're doing today. There is no new material for today. There is a 100-question worksheet, which is crazy long. All right, how many of the 100 do I want you to do? As many as necessary. I want you to do as many of them until you're like, okay, I got this. You don't need to ask me about alternate interior angles ever again. I got the concept. but I also wanted to have plenty of questions for the kids that start getting some wrong. And they're like, well, I need more practice, right? So that's why I put 100 of them. No, I don't expect you to do all 100. Oh, by the way, the answers are on the worksheet as well, too. We won't go over the answers tomorrow because I'm giving you a worksheet with the answers. But your job is to look at it, make sure that you got this down solid. The quiz will come from this worksheet. So what all I'm going to do today is, this is the same lesson as yesterday. I'm going to do this very quickly, very quickly. I'm going to go to the slides where we start talking about things, and then we'll just do a quick review, and then I'll pull up the worksheet. We'll go over a couple of them. Remember the basic construction. Here we go. The basic construction that we're doing looks like this. You have two parallel lines. Remember, we're going to have parallel lines either indicated by the yellow here, the parallel symbol, or by these tiny little triangles right here. These are parallel indicators. When you have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, the black line there is what we'll call a transversal. That's a line that intersects two, it turns out two or more, but for this year it'll just be two parallel lines. You get these 8 angles that are formed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And those 8 angles all have names, and that's what the class was on. We have the interior angles. Those are the angles between the two parallel lines. By the way, these are just the names. We get nothing from them. They're not congruent. They're not anything. They're just angles. Those will be angles 3, 4, 5, and 6. We get the exterior angles, two parallel lines cut by a transversal. We get the exterior angles. Oh, I should have made this one a bit quicker. I'm going to be clicking my butt off here. We get the exterior angles 1, 2, 7, and 8. Right? Those are your exterior angles. And those are the ones. Interior and exterior, they're just names. We get nothing from them. What we do get something from are the next two. Right? The next two. Let me get to them.
Now it says, tell me about that.
The next two, first one is called corresponding angles. Corresponding angles. So corresponding angles are those angles that are on the same side of the transversal in the same position. So corresponding angles, two things. They're on the same side of the transversal, either left or right or top or bottom, depending upon how it's oriented, and in the same position. What I mean by same position is if you look at just 4 of those angles at a time. So for instance, if I look at these 4 angles right here, I would say angle 1 is in the upper left, angle 2 is in the upper right, 3 is in the lower left, and 4 is in the lower right. And if you go down to the other ones, we're looking for the angles that are in the same side and in the same position. So angle 1 is in the upper left, angle 5 is in the upper left. So 1 and 5 are corresponding angles. Those two right there, 1 and 5 are corresponding angles. They are also congruent. That means they have the same measurements. Angles 2 and angle 6 are corresponding. They're in the upper right. They are congruent. 3 and 7 are corresponding, so they are congruent. And finally, 4 and 8. Now, don't get hung up with 1 always goes with 5. That's not true. It depends how they're labeled. Get hung up on the fact that 1 is in the upper left and this one is in the upper left. That's what you should be paying attention to. So remember, it turns out that for corresponding angles, they are congruent. That means they have the same measurements. Okay, the other one that we dealt with, which was, let me get to it. The other one that we dealt with, which was alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are the angles between the two parallel lines that alternate. From top, it goes to bottom. From the left side, it goes to the right side. So angles 3 and angle 6 alternate. 3 is on the top, 6 is on the bottom. Remember, we're talking about interior angles. 3 is on the left, 6 is on the right. When they alternate, both left and right, top and bottom, they are alternate interior angles. And it turns out they are congruent. So 3 and 6 are congruent, and 4 and 5 are congruent. So those two things, corresponding angles are congruent, and alternate interior angles are congruent with what we need to remember. We're going to remember what we did in the previous couple chapters. So in the previous couple chapters, we also had another thing. Vertical angles are congruent. And lastly, 2 angles that form a line are supplementary. We're going to combine those 4 statements in order to find these angle measurements. So for the angle measurements, right, we're going to use those 4 statements. Alternate interior angles are congruent. Corresponding angles are congruent. Vertical angles, remember those are angles formed by an X that are opposite each other. Vertical angles are congruent, and any two angles that make a line are supplementary. In other words, they add up to 180. All right, so this is what we have. Vertical angles are congruent, corresponding angles are congruent, alternate interior angles are congruent. And lastly, two angles that form a straight line, right? Angles 1 plus measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is 180. Now, I just talked super fast. That was a review of the last few lessons. So on the screen right now is everything that you need in order to do the worksheet. Okay, so I'm going to stop this share and I'm going to share the worksheet. We're going to look over the worksheet real quick. The worksheet is right here. All right, there's 100 questions here, literally 100 questions. I gave you 100 questions once again, not because I'm mean and cruel, but because I want to give, here's the answers. I want to give you practice. So your job tonight is to do the worksheet as much as you need. If you do 40 of them, you're like, hey, I got this. Then you don't need to do the following 60. If you get to 40 and you're still making mistakes, well, two things. One, send me a chat so I can help you. And two, continue on, do all 100 until you got this. So there's two basic sections, and what I do is I alternate back and forth between the two. The two basic sections are, I'm going to ask you to name the relationship. Relationship simply means tell me if the given angles are complementary, supplementary, vertical, adjacent, alternate interior, or corresponding. That's all we have. So let's go over these one at a time. Complementary means that they form 90-degree angles together. Supplementary means they form 180-degree angles. In other words, they make a straight line. Vertical means they're an X and they're opposite each other. Adjacent just means they're next to each other. Alternate interior angles, you got to have parallel lines, and they got to be on the inside, and they got to alternate. And corresponding, they got to be parallel lines, and they got to be in the same side, same position as the transversal. Okay. So I'm going to slow down now. We're going to do a couple of these. So let's look at number 1. Okay, immediately I see that A and B are next to each other. Therefore, immediately, I can conclude that they are adjacent to each other. So A and B are adjacent, but further, notice if you put the two together, they make a right angle. How do I know that they're right? It's because this one is right. All right? Therefore, pun intended, A and B are also complementary. So the answer to number 1 is not only are they adjacent, but they're complementary. Kind of see how this can be a little tricky? All right, let's look at 2. 2, notice this symbol means those two lines are parallel. This other line just gets in the way, ignore it. So I have two parallel lines cut by this transversal right here. I got A and B. Notice A is in the lower left-hand position of these 4 angles right here. B is in the lower left-hand position of these 4 angles right here. Therefore, they, A and B, are corresponding. Okay? Your key to use the word alternate interior and corresponding is look for these two triangle things. Look for parallel lines. Okay? All right. We're just going to do a couple of these. We're not going to do them all. How about number 4? Take a look at number 4. Number 4, A and B. Oh, I see an X. So I'm thinking vertical angles, but check it out. They're not across from each other. They're next to each other. B would be vertical to this angle, this unnamed angle right here. A would be vertical to this unnamed angle right here. So Breckton, what do you think about A and B? What's the relationship between A and B? Is Breckton on? Breckton, are you here? Breckton is not here. Okay. Anyone else want to pipe in for number 4? A and B are? Somebody help me out. A and B for number 4 are?
Adjacent and complementary.
They're adjacent and not complementary. They're adjacent and?
Vertical.
Vertical would mean across from each other. A and B are not across.
Oh.
A is across from here. B is across from here. They are adjacent, and somebody already said it. Adjacent and?
Complement is correct, right?
Complement would mean 90 degrees.
Yeah, but there is 9 degrees right there.
Oh, I was thinking for number 3 because you had it highlighted. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Oh.
number four. Sorry. They are adjacent and supplementary. I'm looking at this. They form a straight line right here. All right. Since you answered, and since you asked number three are clearly adjacent, and they are
Complementary.
complementary. Very good. Okay. So that's how this game is played. So that's the first section. So the first section is that you're going to be given just 2 angles, and you're going to be asked. Now, notice on number 6, they sort of look like they might be complementary, but if there's not a little square there, you can't conclude that they're complementary. So A and B here are simply adjacent. All right, the second way I'm going to ask the question, right, the other half is it's going to ask you what the measurement of the angle is. So here's how this one is done. So this starts on number 11. Like I said, I wanted to flip-flop between the 2 types of questions. All right, so on number 11 right here, well, let's see. We got parallel lines. You see the little parallel symbol right there? This line you can ignore. So I got 2 parallel lines cut by this transversal. Once again, B is in the upper right. This angle is in the upper right. Therefore, they are corresponding angles, and we know that corresponding angles are congruent. So if this angle is 125, angle B is?
125.
There you go. Is that Jace?
Yeah.
Okay, 125. Okay, let's take a look at number 13. Look at number 13. That's a weird looking trident little symbol right there. Notice it's asking how big is angle B, and notice that these 2 angles form, somebody?
180 degrees.
180 degrees. So this plus that equals 180. So to find out what it is, subtract 148 from 180. That gives you 30. Somebody?
32.
32 degrees. Questions? Anyone? Notice 14 is basically the same question, except these 2 angles are not supplementary. They are complementary. So these 2 add up to 90. So 90 minus 38 is 52 degrees. That's how you do that one. All right, let me scroll down. Let's do some more interesting ones. Okay, 16. Look at 16. So 16, I got 2 parallel lines cut by a transversal. These 2 angles are between the 2 parallel lines. That means they're interior. And notice this one's on the left, this one's on the right. This one's on the top, this one's on the bottom. These are, somebody?
Parallel?
These are, well, clearly the lines are parallel, but these 2 angles are?
Oh, they're also, they're alternate and
alternate interior angles. And we know that they are congruent, so therefore there's no math involved. B is?
136.
136. Very good. Sometimes these diagrams will get complicated. They're just giving you extra information. So for instance, on number 18, great, there's a line right here. I don't care. It's dead to me. I'm just looking at these 2. And by the way, tilt your head. Guess what these 2 angles actually are?
Congruent.
They are congruent because they're alternate interior. Notice they're not corresponding. B is in the lower right. Well, the lower right to B would be right here. That's B's corresponding angle. It's not marked, but this is on the inside. This is on the inside. This is on the bottom. This is on the top. This is on the left. This is on the right. These 2 are alternate interior angles. Therefore, B is 116. The question I generally get is on question number 17. I haven't mentioned this before, but if you go in a complete circle, how many degrees do you make?
360.
360. So this one, I'm given this angle and this angle. I'm just missing 1 angle. So this one, you got to add these 2 angles and subtract from 360. I'll just tell you straight up, I'm not going to put a question like this on a test, but you should be able to at least be able to answer those questions tonight for homework. Okay, so 100 questions, right? How many of them do you need to do? As many as necessary for you to be comfortable with this. Notice the first 10 are just name the relationship. Number 8, A and B are what? Anybody?
Vertical.
They are vertical. right? It's not asking are they congruent or anything like that. It's just asking you to write its name. So I go 10 question asking their names. Then I do 10 question asking their angle measurements. Then I do 10 question asking their names. Then I do, okay, this is going to get boring. Then I'm going to do 10 question asking their names. Then I do 10 question asking their angle measurements, right? How many do you need to do? You need to do as many as necessary for you to be comfortable with this. As long as you know the difference between complementary, supplementary, vertical, adjacent, alternate, interior, corresponding. Some of them are both. Notice on question 62, A and B are both. Somebody?
Congruent?
A and B are not congruent.
For science? Yeah. Okay.
A and B are
Supplementary?
supplementary, means
Complementary.
180 degrees.
Complementary.
And they're also,
Adjacent.
they're next to each
Adjacent.
other, and they are complementary. So for those of you that struggle with these two words, complementary, supplementary, remember alphabetically, C comes before S, 90 comes before 180. So complementary means the 90, supplementary means the 180. So make sure that you do as many of these as you can until that you're getting them all right. Like there's none of them you're getting wrong. So anybody want to take a guess at what the quiz is on tomorrow?
This?
This sheet right here. So I will put a 10 question quiz tomorrow. The 10 questions, 5 will be name the relationship, and 5 will be figure out the angle measurement. That's what the quiz will be on. It'll be a 10-minute quiz. Should take you all of 4 to 5 minutes to do. That's what the quiz is going to be on. And are there any questions today?
Do we have to turn this in?
So do you need to turn it in? You need to absolutely 100% fill out that you have done it. I don't just mean return. I mean you need to put something in there so that I can be assured. You can either put something like, I am ready for the quiz, or Mr. C, why did you give me 100 of these? I only needed 10 of these. I need you to put down something on the sheet that indicates that you've looked at it, you've done as many as you needed to do, and you are ready for the quiz. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but do we only have to do one page?
You need to do as many as you need in order to give yourself. So are you asking, you need to take a picture of things? I need you to put in something. When you click return, one of the options you get is to create a document. You can just have text in there that says, Mr. C, I did as much as I am ready for the quiz, or I did them all, or I did as many as I needed to. Just something that indicates to me that you've looked at it, right? So big boy, big girl rules here. Some of you may think that, well, then he's not going to check, so I don't need to do any of this. This is the quiz. You know, I'll find out tomorrow if you know this or not, because it'll be pretty clear that you don't know the difference between corresponding and an alternate interior, or adjacent and vertical, that sort of thing. So make sure that you do as many problems as necessary until you've gained mastery of this. And by the way, if you're struggling with this, send me a chat. You know, I can help you. After 3 o'clock, that sort of thing.
Would it be best to do like 2 or so of each?
I would just, like I said, I broke it up into 10 each. So if you get to question 40 and you're like, boy, this is hurting my head because it's so easy, right? I'm getting them all right. Then you can stop right there. You do the first 20 and you get 8 of them wrong, you need to continue. So, use some common sense and do as many as necessary.
What day's the quiz?
Tomorrow. So I'll take the first 10 minutes of class. We'll do the quiz, and then I'll teach the class.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Nope.
Cool. That's all I had for you today. Make sure that you are sending good chats, because remember, your teachers, it immediately pops up when anybody chats. I get it on my screen. So period 1.
I know it's so annoying when they blow up chat.
Well, but I can read them. So when someone's sending inappropriate chats, I can see what you're sending to everyone else. So just be good citizens and make sure you do that. Or not send bad chats, but you know what I mean. Be good. That's all I got. I'm going to stop it right here. You guys have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.